Real estate boy, and welcome to my Friday lives. On these Friday lives, I look to bring in professionals who are experts in their particular area to drop some knowledge on y'all. Okay, so today we're going to talk about credit repair. As a real estate agent, probably 70% of the people that I speak with, they have credit issues. Okay. And a lot of times in our community, we're not brought up learning about credit. So by the time we learn about credit, it's too late. So I wanted to bring an expert on. This is somebody that I partner with personally. He has his own company, and he told me the name of it, but I just forgot it. So I'm gonna let him say it. So
Parisian.
today, guys, I brought Kevin Lewis, who is a credit repair expert. So I wanted to bring him on, man. Welcome to the live, Kev.
Khalid, so you call me a real estate, credit repair expert. I appreciate you saying such. We'll see. We'll see.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, I wanted to break down some things about credit. That's usually the first step when a person is preparing to buy a home. You can have a bunch of money, you can have a bunch of motivation, but if you're looking to get a loan, if your credit is not up to par, then you're probably gonna have to go back to the drawing board. Okay. And the way housing prices are today, if you're looking for something that you can actually move into, you're probably more times than not are going to need a loan. So, um, Kev, I'm gonna throw some credit repair questions at you. And but first, why don't you tell us about yourself and tell us about your company?
Yep, absolutely. So I'm Kevin Lewis, the owner of Parisian Credit Counseling. We have the distinction of being one of the nation's only credit counseling franchises. We own the franchise. We are not. We didn't buy into it, so I'm proud of that. We help people get into a better position to be financially sound, and we know that um, in all communities, but particularly in the African American community, which is where our passion lies. We know that one of the greatest and most solid ways to wealth or means to wealth is through home ownership. So we help people get there. We do both personal and business credit for it. So if you've got a client that's looking to buy a house, as you know, we've partnered on a number of occasions. So if you're looking to buy a house and you got to get your credit right, come to us. Promethean is the name of the company, Promethean Credit Counseling. And if you've got a business and you're looking to get access to capital for that business, you can also come to us. But we came here to talk about credit repair, and we're talking about the personal side. And so, Kaleem, Khalid, as you know, um, you've run into all kinds of issues, and we've seen just about everything that you can throw at us. And there's no, I just want to say this to people: there's no credit that cannot be repaired. It's either time or money, but either way, it can get repaired.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I guess my first question to you is, what's the biggest mistake that you see people make in reference to credit?
Hopelessness. That's the biggest mistake. Khalid. Hopelessness. So you get into a situation where it happens to everybody, right? You get into a situation where you're forced to live on credit, and as such, you get behind on, or not that you get behind. Let's say you start living off of credit. You don't have enough income to cover your monthly expenses, right? So you start to
Mhm.
put some of those monthly expenses onto your credit cards, and then the interest rate and things start to snowball, and you say, you know what? I give up. I'm just not going to pay these bills. And so there's mispayments, there's charge-offs, there's collections. And once you get into that track, it's much more difficult to dig out. So the biggest mistake I see people making is giving up. Here's the deal. When you get into that situation, when you get into those situations, the best thing I can tell you is call your creditors. Remember, you're calling a business, but these businesses are made up of people, right? So you call your credit card companies, you call your mortgage company, you call your auto loan company, and you say, hey, look, I lost my job due to whatever reason, or not even I lost my job, things spiraled out of control. I may be making a payment late. I don't know if I will, but I'm maybe making a payment late. And I'm asking that if I do make that payment late, can you guys do a goodwill and don't report the late payment? I'll do whatever I
Mm.
can to make you guys whole, and I will definitely send you some money, but don't report the payments late. But don't just give up and stop paying your bills.
Okay, so if I heard you correctly, there's something that you can do if you know that you're going to be late, but it has to be prior to the lateness. Is that correct?
The more proactive you are, I mean, if you don't get to them, you can still do something. But the more proactive
Hmm.
you are, you coming up on, the deal. Christmas, right? Christmas is coming, right? So in November, you might be, if you know that your income is not covering expenses in October, and Christmas is coming, there's no way Christmas is going to come, and you're going to be in a better financial position. So in November, you call and say, look, Christmas is coming. It's coming for everybody, right? I may be making some payments late. I just want to let you know we've had a great relationship. If you don't mind, if I miss if I miss a payment, if you guys could just give me some grace and not report that on my credit report. I'll pay whatever penalties that you ask, but just don't report it on my credit report.
Okay, so it doesn't have to go. So I guess if I'm understanding what you're saying, when you have a lateness, it's not it's not 100% necessary that they'll send it to the credit cards if you try to intervene. There are people who can do things to stop it from being sent to the creditors or being sent to the credit agency.
That's correct. That is correct. And what's cool about it is, again, it's made up of people, and the first person you talk to might not know that their company will allow them to do this. So you may have to talk to
Okay.
several people, but you just keep asking, and you don't demand. You don't go in. I got a lot of people who go in with hot heads. Don't go in. You know what I mean? Don't try to steamroll the people. Call them in and fall on the sword, because you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Humbly say, look, I mismanage my finances, right? We've
Mhm.
all done it. I mismanage my finances. I'm going to be a little bit behind, but I promise you, I'm going to make good at some point. So if you could just work with me, and if you can't do it, if you could just put me in touch with somebody who might be able to, somebody above you. And when you're talking to the rep, don't say to the rep, listen. First of all, call them by their name, right?
Okay.
You've seen, as we're going through this conversation, I've used your name several times. That's just because it's a
Right.
habit of mine. But use their name. Jason, you know what? I thank you very much for your help. You've been a great help. If you could put me to your supervisor, if you could put me in touch with your supervisor, I'm just letting you know, Jason, I'm going to give great reviews about you. I just want to go to somebody who might be in a position to do what I'm asking when you're not.
Okay. No, that makes perfect sense, man. Now, if I'm because I started my credit journey when I was uh I think 16, no, 17. I'm in college. I see the free t-shirt that they're giving
Mm-hmm.
and it looks nice and everybody got one. So what I got to do just sign my name and get a credit card and get a new t-shirt. I was on it. Um what does an ideal credit profile look like? And I'm asking that because a lot of us were brought up credit cards are bad, credit cards are bad. So we stay away from credit cards and then when we do go to get a loan or go to get a house, our credit score is 550. And we're wondering why, because we know we don't have any credit and I don't owe anybody. Excuse me, I don't owe anybody. So, what does a ideal credit profile look like?
That's a great question, and I'm going to ask you to indulge me on this because I want to go through each of the eight components. So there are eight components. There are five definite, but three potential components that you want to contend with. So eight total, right? I'm going to put them in order of importance. The first is payment history. You want to have no missed or late payments on your credit report. And again, I'm saying to you, if you're proactive, you can prevent those things. But if they happen, if you do get a late or missed payment, call the company and fall on the sword again, humbly, and say, you know what, I missed this payment is because of this. Do you mind removing it? All companies have the authority to remove anything they want on the credit reports. They just have to want to do it. So payment history, no late or missed payments, certainly in the last 24 months. If it's outside of 24 months, then your credit
Mhm.
profile is better. But if you have none at all, that's great. But certainly none in the last 24 months. Your credit utilization, which means your outstanding balances on credit cards compared to the limits, should be no more than 25%. Now, the industry will tell you 30%. Some will say up to 33. I I tell our clients 25 because that'll keep you clean and nice, right? But if you want the most impact, if you want the biggest impact, you should always carry 3.9%. No more, but no less. So you hear what I'm saying?
Mhm.
3.9%. The credit card company, and this is where a lot of financial trauma in the black community. And again, I don't come on here to be divisive. I talk about the black community because I'm really passionate, and we have unique challenges in the credit space that other communities don't have. Right? Where the where the trauma in the black community shows up is we believe we should be debt free, that we should not carry any balances on our credit cards, and that's good. But that's not great because the lenders want to see that you know how to manage credit. So they want to see balances, but they don't want to see high balances. So I tell people carry a 3.9% balance on your credit card at all times. But that's not a lot of money. So if you have $1,000 limit, it's $39. It's
Okay.
$39. So just keep that in your mind. Buy gas, pay it down, and keep that 39%. Kelly, don't miss a payment, don't pay it late, but keep that 39% balance on the cards. All
No,
right.
not 39. Three. No, not 39.
3.9%. 3.9.
3.9%.
Yeah, thank you for correcting.
Okay.
3.9%. So that's credit utilization. Credit age, you need to have 7 years or more of credit. So I tell people if you have some long-standing credit accounts, please don't close them.
Mhm.
Please
Right.
don't close them. That's the other thing. People pay off a credit card and they say, you know what, I can't stand the company. They treated me poorly. I'm going to close it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Keep the account. Keep that 3.9%. Don't close it. If you have not yet established enough credit age is a difficult thing on in the FICO scoring model, but I'm not going to get into that. If you don't have 7 years, then look to become an authorized user on someone's credit who does have a long-standing history. But if you're going to do that, the the account that they put you on needs to be at least 10 years. It
Okay.
needs to have the highest limit possible. So you find somebody that has a 10,000, 15,000, $20,000 limit, and they have to always pay that bill on time or early. If you don't know that to be true, if you can't find that out, don't become an authorized user, because if somebody misuses their credit, it's going to impact you negatively. You
It's
riding with
almost
me?
like co-signing. It's almost
It's,
like co-signing a loan.
that's right. That's right. It is like co-signing. It is just like co-signing. What happens to them happens to you. So you want to be aware of that. All right. The next thing are inquiries. Inquiries, you want to have no more than 3 inquiries per bureau. So you can have 9 total, but 3 for Equifax, 3 for TransUnion, 3 for Experian. No more than 3. Go ahead.
In what time frame? Like 3 in a year, 3 in 6 months, or
2 years. So the inquiry stays on your credit report unless you get it removed for 2 years.
okay.
Now, let me make you aware of. Let me stay in that for just a second, because there is information being passed along, which is true information, but it's not the whole story. And that is, if you apply for credit, you should apply for all the credit in the same time frame. So if you apply for credit in a 2-week time frame,
Mm-hmm.
the it will only impact your score one time, but it will impact your credit profile for 2 years. What I mean by that is, so if you go into, let's say you're going to get a car loan. People see this often with car loans, right? You go into get a car loan, and the the car dealer will run your credit through 7 different banks, right?
Right.
So you'll have 7 inquiries on your credit report. Well,
Mm-hmm.
those 7 inquiries are looked at, as far as points are concerned, they're looked at as only one inquiry. So your score is only going to drop by 3 to 5 points, not
Okay.
per inquiry. It's only going to drop, all 7 of those inquiries are going to equal a drop in about 3 to 5 points. However, if next month you go to apply for a credit card, the credit card company is going to see all 7 of those inquiries, and they may deny you because they're going to say you have too many inquiries. So, what
Gotcha.
I tell people to do is, when you're going to apply for credit, you want to do
Mm-hmm.
as much as you can to make sure you're going to get approved before you apply.
Okay.
Specifically, when you walk into a car dealership, you tell them, look, I have my credit report. I want you to look at my credit report, and I want you to take me to one bank. Take me to the bank that you think I have the greatest chance of being approved from. Now, y'all got me on that, because you
Yeah,
good?
no, definitely. But I guess to piggyback on that, what I've also heard on that also is to get pre-approved with a credit union before you go down to get, and we're just talking about a car right now. Versus going down there and getting their finance being pre-approved, well, going to a credit union and getting pre-approved first to going down there with a check versus using their bank. I mean, that's kind of outside of this, but that's one thing that I heard also to do when going to buy a car.
Well, yeah, that's finance. That's not credit, but that makes
Right,
sense, because you're going to get the best deal on that car if you come with a
right,
check. Right.
correct,
So that way you can negotiate. They're trying to charge you 35,000 for a car that you can pay 25,000 for. They
right,
lose.
right,
So, but
right.
that's finance.
So,
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 uh,
oh, go ahead. Did you have something
nope,
else?
nope. Go ahead.
Okay. So I guess when I'm talking about profile though, because that's the makeup of the actual score. What I've heard, and again, I'm not the expert in it, so I'm gonna bounce this off of you, is that what I've heard as far as what ideal credit profile should be is that a person has two credit cards, um, a revolving debt, so, well, that's the revolving debt. Two installment debts, a long-term one and a short-term one. A long-term one being like a mortgage and a short-term one being like a car note. So how much truth is there to that?
So that's where I'm going next. That's the fifth component. But Khalid, the reason I went to all of those other components is because what you're talking about is called the credit mix, and I'm gonna talk about that.
Mhm,
That's where, again, in all communities, but in the black community specifically, this is where we usually miss the target in our credit report. But here's the deal: if you have a great credit mix, it won't matter if in the other things that I talked about, they're all negative, right? Now,
okay.
so the fifth component is this credit mix. There are 3 categories of credit. There's installment credit, which means you pay the same amount every month, no matter what the interest rate is. That's like a mortgage, a car loan, student loans, personal loans. There's revolving credit. You pay a different amount depending on the interest rate and the amount you use. That's a credit card, any credit card. And then there's open, and open is sort of a hybrid. It is a revolving debt, but you have to pay the entire amount at a specified period of time. I don't like to endorse, but I will so people can understand. That's like a Amex. When you see a no preset limit card, Amex, Discover, any of those no preset limit cards, those are open. A great profile will have a 2-3-2 relationship there: 2 installment accounts, 3 revolving accounts, 2 open accounts. Of course, the mortgage is the best installment account you can have on your credit report. followed by an auto loan, followed by a personal loan, student loans if you're taking good care of them. But so those are the best. And then revolving, you want to have, my suggestion is you have a Visa or MasterCard, you have a store card, some kind of store, and then you have a fuel card for your car. That's a great mix of revolving credit. And then I would suggest you have at least one Amex, one Discover. So, and by the way, Amex, I want you guys to start sending me checks because I keep plugging you guys. If you're out there, if you're
Right,
listening.
for
So that's the
sure, for
credit mix.
sure, for sure.
And when you're talking about the profile, you concentrated on that part. So you're 100% correct because that's where we missed the mark. A lot of times people don't have enough credit in those categories, and so their credit never shoots up. But if you have enough credit in those categories without those other things being taken care of, then it's effectively negating that.
Right, for the nail, for the nail. Now, your personal experience, man. What's the worst credit report that you've seen?
Uh, So in all 8 categories, and I went through 5 so far. So those are the 5 factors. And then the next 3 are collections accounts. You want to have no collections accounts, charge offs. You want to have no charge offs, and public records, uh, um, bankruptcies, repos, and um, any other mortgage related judgment, right? You want to have none of those. The worst credit report I've seen, like I said, I just went through 8 factors. I've seen everything. So I've seen people who have 5 different accounts that have 6 late payments each. I've seen a credit utilization that was at 102%. I've seen a credit age that was a year and 3 months. It took them a year and 3 months to jack that up. I've seen them only have 2 accounts. I've seen them have. I have a. I've seen a person that has 60 inquiries.
60 inquiries.
60, 60. And I don't mean 20, 20, and 20. I mean 60 each bureau. I've
What?
seen the credit mix not be good. I've seen collections. I've seen 10, no, 13. I think 13 is the winning number as far as collections. And then I've seen a bunch of charge-offs and a bankruptcy. So I've seen the worst credit report. But let me say to you,
Mm,
I saw that credit report and we
hmm.
fixed it. Now it takes time. It took us time,
Right, right.
but we can fix it.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand is that, and it's not an overnight correction. It does take time. So I guess once you talk a little bit about the process and why does it take so long?
It takes so long because you have to understand what the credit scoring model, why the credit scoring model was built, right? Banks make money by charging interest. You make more money off of poor credit than you do off of good credit as long as the poor credit is paying, right? So it takes so long because the the credit scoring models were set up to take long so that they could take advantage of this added interest. But the process is really you deciding whether you want to trade money for time or time for money. If you want to trade money for time, that means I'll give an example of money for time. So we can get a collections off your credit report by writing letters and challenging some of the collections, right? But
Mhm.
that can take anywhere from 2 months to 9 months, depending on how much interaction we have to have with the company, right? Or you can pay money to settle this. So let's say you owe $1,000 on the collections, you can pay money and we can settle it for less, and you can have that collections taken off your credit report in 30 days. So the question is, do you want to trade money for time or time for money?
Mhm.
Trading time for money in that same example is, you know what, you say this collections doesn't belong to me, or I just don't have the money to settle, but I need to get this off my credit report as quickly as possible. so we can challenge whether or not the company has the right to collect this debt. So, but it's going to take. It could take, like I said, it could take. I've seen a collections take us 9 months to get off the credit report just because the company challenged, but they you know we provide they asked us to provide documentation. They had to provide documentation. We had to come to an agreement. So it took some time. But if you're willing to take that time, it's worth it in some instances.
Gotcha, man. I got 101 questions, man. But one that pops off is the way the credit report is handling medical claims. Can you talk to as far as the new rule change with dealing with medical claims?
So, Khalid, I appreciate that you didn't really need me on this because you have all the information to give the audience.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But I appreciate that you graciously let me come on here and show my face. So,
No,
um,
no, you're the expert, man.
you're right. As of July, the Biden administration passed a law that any medical collections that are less than $600 can no longer appear on the credit report after July. So if you have a medical, and it's not retro. So if you have and this is the information that people are out there
Mm,
talking about that it is troubling because people are saying they can't put medical collections on your credit report. And so people saying, I got a medical collections that was on my credit report back from 2021. It should come off. And I'm saying, nope, it's anything after July of 2022.
okay.
So if you get a medical collections and it shows up on your credit report after July 2022, then we can get that off with no problem. But also remember, if it has to be less than $600. If it's
All right.
more than $600, still goes on like a regular collections.
Still going in. Okay. Now, um, through me working with clients, I've heard clients say that reporting medical information to the bureau is a violation of their HIPAA policy. Can you speak to that? Is there any truth to that?
There is truth, but I like I said to people in life, life has a subject and a predicate. So a lot of people are telling you the subject, but they're not telling you the predicate of the sentence. So that is true. They
Okay.
cannot report your medical information, but your
Mm,
personal information they absolutely can. So they can report
okay.
who you owed, your name, your date of birth, your social, because that is public personal information. What they cannot provide is the procedure that you had, the doctor that you use, the medications. And so people get caught up in that. They
Right.
say, they sold all my medical information to the collections agency. That may or may not be true.
Right. See, that's why I brought you on, man. I've heard all this stuff, but I don't know if this stuff is right or wrong. So that's what we got you on.
It's not wrong.
Also, okay, it's just misplaced. It's just
I just made it
misdirected.
righter than it was.
Okay. Also, matter of fact, even yesterday, because there's a lot of information on these social media websites. But one of the big things out there is like, hey, I can just call like a Nexus Lexus. Is that what it's called? Nexus Lexus?
Lexus Nexus. Lexus
Or
Nexus.
those sub credit bureaus, and the big guys are getting their information from these sub creditors. So if I just call them and I freeze my account and then I challenge it, then there's no way for them to verify. Is there any validity to that?
Yes, so we have used that tactic.
Okay.
You freeze the secondary bureaus, and there are five of them. There's
Okay.
LexisNexis, there's Sage. Well, LexisNexis owns SageStream right now, so you don't have, but they still work independently. So LexisNexis, SageStream, ARS, CoreLogic, and Innovis. Those are the secondary bureaus. And so when you see on your Equifax Experian TransUnion report, when you see your date of birth or your address or your previous addresses or your employers, that information a lot of that information is coming from those secondary bureaus. So if you freeze those secondary bureaus, then
Mm,
it is difficult for a company to verify that this information is accurate. And what I mean by that is, so you're saying if you challenge the collections, let's say a collections company has an address that is not your current address. Let's say you moved. Right now, here's the deal. I don't want to encourage people to try to defraud and get out of and tell lies.
Okay.
But let's say let's say you lived in one place, the collections agency has your address from that one place, you've moved since, right? So the
All right.
collections agency is saying this is Khalid Aleem at 1212 Mockingbird Lane, right? Or was it 1313 Mockingbird Lane? What was that, the Munsters? Anyway, so
Right.
let's
Go ahead.
say I'm telling my age right now. But let's say they say your current address, they are reporting your current address as, oh,
Ooh. You see, he was giving us the goods. But I think the road that he was going down to, hopefully he'll be able to jump back in here. And I don't know if a dog tripped a wire or what, but I think what the road that he was going down was that if you your report needs to be updated, okay? Your credit report needs to be updated because a lot of times or sometimes your credit, your old credit could be tied to an address. And if you challenge it, if he comes back on, I'll ask him this. All right, he's back on now. Um, let's see him come up here. All right,
can you hear me?
yeah,
Can you hear me?
I can.
Please forgive me.
Nah, no
Please
worries.
forgive
I said maybe a
me.
cat or a dog or something tripped your wire.
Let's go with that. Let's go with that. 'Cause I'm embarrassed to even tell you what really happened. So let's go with the cat. All right.
All right.
But what I was saying was, um, so the company is reporting that your current address is 1313 Mockingbird Lane, but you live at 1212 Adams Lane, right?
Right.
When you freeze the bureaus, they cannot verify, they have to verify this accuracy, and they cannot verify that because the bureaus that feed that information are not feeding it. So you could potentially get the collections off. However, if you live at 1313 Mockingbird Lane and that's what they're reporting, can't use that. So when people say that works, that doesn't work all of the time. It just works some of the time. And if there's other information that they can't verify, then we use that as well.
So is that why, and I've heard this a lot, is that why people say one of the first things that you need to do is to clean up your credit report? Because I'm not going to lie, I was one of those people where when I got my credit report, I like to see all the addresses because there's addresses I forgot about and it brought back memories. So I would look at it like, oh, I remember I lived there at that point in time. So I would like to see that stuff on there. But with what you just said, is that why a person should definitely have the most accurate information on their credit report so that sometimes credits and correct me if this is wrong, but sometimes the old credit is connected to an address. So if you challenge it and the address is incorrect, they'll take it off, something like that.
Yep. Yeah. So you want the first thing, the first step is, that's why the first phase of our process is
Hmm.
to correct any inaccuracies. We want the only thing to show up on the three bureaus is your current address. The only previous address we want to show up is the address that you lived at right before you lived at your current address, right? And those things should be the same across all three bureaus. So the first thing we're going to do is, if TransUnion has a different address than Equifax, we're going to make sure that they have the correct current address. We're also going to make sure that they have the correct previous address, and those are the only two addresses that should appear on your credit report. We want to make sure they have the correct employer. We want to make sure they have your name spelled correctly. We want to make sure they have your date of birth correct, all three bureaus. And so what we do is, we're going to go to LexisNexis, and we're going to first clean up LexisNexis and make sure that LexisNexis has all the correct information, because sometimes LexisNexis has that you lived at an address, but maybe your cousin used your name at their address for something, right? Maybe they put you on a joint application for something, right? But you've never lived at that address. So the first thing you want to do is LexisNexis is the most comprehensive credit report on the planet. They're going to have information from the time that you are born. So,
Wow.
and they're going to have car insurance information. If you've ever had an accident, they're going to have that information. And they're going to have all the addresses you've ever lived at, if you've ever gotten mail at an address. So, what you want to do is you want to look at your LexisNexis and you want to make sure that if they have an address listed, that it is that is something, some place that you actually lived. If you didn't, you take that off of LexisNexis, and then you freeze LexisNexis, and then you go to the three credit bureaus. And like I said, you're going to make sure all of your names are spelled correctly.
Mhm.
Date of birth is correct. They only have your current address, your previous address, your current employer. Everything else needs to be taken off.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. But with, with all that being said, with YouTube, with TikTok, with all the information online, why do I need a credit repair specialist? Why should I use a credit repair specialist?
So you can trade money for time or time for money,
Mm,
right? There's a lot of information on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, right? You're going to have to take and put all of those pieces together. And like I said before, remember these social media platforms are really trying to give you information in a minute and 20 seconds or less, right? And they're trying to captivate you in the first 13 of those 13 seconds of that
gotta
minute,
hook them.
27 seconds, right?
Gotta hook them.
So it's hard to give the subject and the predicate in a minute and 27
Mm,
seconds. So you're getting a lot of subject. You're not getting a lot of predicate. So you go and try to act on these subjects, right? If I don't tell you the
right.
whole story, right? It's like Zoom when we're on Zoom, right? You see me now because you see the top part of me, but what you don't know is I'm sitting in a pair of basketball shorts right now, right? So, but if you go outside right now and try to describe my outfit, you're gonna put me in dress slacks, right?
Right.
You're gonna you may be wrong. So my thing to you is I'm not actually sitting in basketball shorts. I just use that for that comic relief, right? But the point is, if you don't have the whole story and you go try to act on it and it doesn't respond the way that you want to, you're going to have to you're going to run into some issues. So what I say is a credit repair company is used when you don't have the time to go put all of this information together and get all the information in one place. The other thing is, like I said, you're going to freeze LexisNexis. You're going to clean up LexisNexis. You're going to clean up the credit bureaus. But that takes some time and it takes some follow up. Things don't happen automatically, right? We send a letter to the credit bureaus, and the credit bureaus, we have to give by law 30 days for the credit bureaus to respond. But if they don't respond in 30 days, we have to follow up and say, hey, we sent you a letter 30 days ago. You didn't fix it. Now you now have 15 days to fix it by law, right? But if they
Right.
don't fix it in that 15 days, we then have to write the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. We have to do all of those things. And if you don't know those things, or you don't have the time, or you don't do that follow up, just think if you miss that 30-day window and 60 days goes by, then you have to reset. You have to send that letter, that first letter, all again, all over again. You can't go back and say you didn't respond to me in 30 days, right? A credit repair company is going to monitor that. They're gonna look at that. They're gonna set alerts and make sure that at the end of 30 days we are following up and saying, "Hey, we wrote you this letter." That's why you would do it.
Okay. No, and that's what I tell people. It's like, hey, you can do this on your own, but most people won't. Most people won't do the follow through. And it's just like boxing. It's like, yeah, you can get in the ring with Floyd Mayweather, but is that a good idea? Uh, you can actually do. You can put the gloves on. You can get in the ring, but it's probably not a good idea. So why don't you go with somebody that spars with Floyd every day, put your money on them, as they say, versus you trying to do it now. So, um, man, we are going to wrap this up, man. I guess if there's one thing, if you had 30 seconds, what's one thing that you would tell people in reference to credit repair?
To credit repair, um, don't, it is a process. Remember that it's a process. Be prepared to go through the process. You'll get good results if you can if you can stay through the process. There's no overnight fixes. And if I'm telling people one thing that they can do to have the greatest impact on their credit profile, it is your credit utilization. If you get your credit utilization down to 25% or less, but 3.9% is the sweet spot, that's the quickest and greatest impact that you can have in your credit report. But as far as credit repair is concerned, just understand we're going to take you through a process. It's a proven process, but it is something that we have to go through, and you can just trust it or not.
Gotcha. And where can people reach you, man?
They can call me at 215-904-8690. You can always find us on the web at premesian.com. It's pronounced Premesian. It's spelled Premisien. You can send us an email at info@premesian.com. And you can find us on every social media platform except TikTok at the name Premesian, Premisien.
And credit repair is nationwide. So you don't have to be, because we're in Philadelphia, but you don't have to be in Philadelphia. You can be in California, you can be in Puerto Rico. It doesn't matter.
We are licensed in all 50 states.
Awesome, awesome. All right, y'all. Well, make sure if y'all are having credit repair, don't try to do it yourself. Reach out to a reputable company like Kevin's. And again, this is Colin Nathan Aline, the real estate boy. If you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate,